I knew my calling since the day I turned 9 and got a Super Nintendo and an acoustic guitar. I started playing on both until my fingers got scarred.
What's up, my wizards? Dev from SBMTG. More spoilers today, and I knew that it was going to start getting serious. We got like 13 spoilers this morning from Wizards. Let's go ahead and run through them. Some of them interesting, some of them not so much. Something I'm excited about first. I might be more excited about this card than anything else today. This is Sylvan Advocate, and I absolutely love this card. A splashable, 2-drop, 2 mana, 2/3, that's pretty good. They slap Vigilance on there. They really push this guy. Reminds me sort of Dragon Master Outcast in some ways, you know? Except he makes, when you have 6 lands, he doesn't give you a 4/4 flyer return. That would be really, really cool if he did that. But instead, he gives all your lands +2/+2, and he himself gets +2/+2, which really pushes this card. He just is a 2 mana, 2/3 that within a few turns in the mid game will become a 4/5. That's really good, you guys, especially in mid-range decks. And I don't have to tell you, he's also an elf and an ally. This gets an extra point of toughness, putting it out of non-spell mastery, fiery impulse, and wild slash range. That's important. I just want to stress that Tarmogoyf is a 2 mana guy that becomes a 4 mana or a 2 mana 4/5, 5/6 later on in the game, And this guy is sort of reminiscent of that. He's reminiscent of Tarmogoyf. This is Oath of Chandra. Another oath right here, and we're almost done with the oaths. This is probably the one I'm the most underwhelmed by, honestly. I'm just not super impressed. And I know that there are some people that really like the card, but I kind of like Draconic Roar better. We've got Draconic Roar until October or something like that. One thing I will say, this works pretty well with Chandra Fire of Kaladesh. It's a red spell, that's one thing. If you're able to flip your Chandra, then this will end up doing 2 damage that turn. That's one thing, but we always talk about Super Friends when we talk about these Oath cards here. And I don't think that red will end up playing, or Super Friends will end up playing red anyway. I'm just not really seeing that. So I'm just not really sure of how great this card is, It is removal. That's the best thing I can say about it. It's cheap removal that sort of looks like a lightning strike, but it doesn't hit players. That's horrible. If it hit players, it would be sort of overpowered. It'd be a little OP. But it doesn't. It only hits creatures. That means that this is like a turned off Draconic Roar. And sure, if you're able to get the Planeswalker synergy out of it, that seems cool, but it'll only happen once, twice, Not going to happen all the time. So I'm just not a huge fan. This I kind of like more than I probably should. This is Reality Smasher right here. I like Reality Smasher, you guys. Haste is an amazing ability to put on a 5 mana 5/5. Just comes in swinging, they never see it coming. That's awesome. And he can't be chump blocked. That's actually really good on a big, hasty creature. But what I'm most concerned about here is that this guy forces 2-for-1s. That's insane. And the way it's worded, they can't be in top deck mode and deal with this guy properly. They don't have anything to discard. The spell is countered. So they can't just be in top deck mode and really deal with this guy the way they want to. I love that about it. And even if they do have a card in their hand and a removal spell, you're still forcing a 2-for-1, which is traditionally amazing, especially on a big dude like this. Speaking of forcing 2-for-1s, this is Fall of the Titans. It does not do that as well as the last card. I've been testing Big Red for, 2 weeks now, something like that, a week and a half. And I'm just not a huge fan of this card. I don't think it slots in very well. And yeah, you could look at it as a possible 2-for-1, but I really liked Ravaging Blaze when it came out. And this card sort of reminds me of that. It's instant speed, X burn, and I'm a huge fan of X spells. More so than a lot of people. But even that being said, I'm not terribly, I don't really feel this card that much, This is Bonds of Mortality, and what it looks like to me is sort of a commander safety valve. And I know, again, it sounds like I'm defaulting to commander, but I'm not. I actually think this is a piece intended for commander. And yeah, it's cool that it's a 2-mana card that replaces itself. The card would be pretty bad even out of the sideboard if it didn't replace itself, But out of the sideboard, it's fine. Again, maybe, depending on what we see in standard. A big hexproof creature we're all worried about is Ojutai. There's also Silumgar the Drifting Death. These are realities, So I could see this maybe out of the sideboard against Esper Dragons. But then you have the problem of how do I remove it? It's in the wrong color. You give a card that removes hexproof and indestructible to a color that has no removal, green. Not really sure it's got the legs to make it work in standard, but in some, EDH or commander metas, this could be a decent card. This is Hedron Alignment, which has a lot of people talking today. I think Hedron Alignment, the way this channel works, I will almost certainly be charged with building around this card in some form or fashion. You know, it looks very hard to get. You know, we all talked about Biovisionary when it came out. That never did anything. I'm just thinking Hedron alignment might end up being the same way. I want this to be part of a combo deck that wins in one turn, but we'll have to see what people do with it. I haven't been able to look at the card long enough to come up with different interactions. That's what it strikes me as. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens in Standard. It's one of those, you don't know what's going to happen until you do a lot of research and study with it. And, you know, in the next couple of months, maybe we'll see something happen. This is Drana's Chosen, which I don't want to spend too much time on. It looks like a limited bomb. That's why it's rare. You know, I thought this was uncommon like all day until I went to do the final research for the video. I realized, oh, this is rare. Huh. And it makes sense because in limited this would be busted if it was just at the uncommon level. Fantastic limited card. Don't think it has the legs to get there in Standard. It's very, very fragile. You know, 2 toughness on 4 mana guys, just that's pretty bad. Can be Wild Slash, can be Fiery Impulse, and like all the removal in between. So, you know, and it looks attractive to add instant speed every single turn, get a 2/2 zombie. That seems cool, but, you know, he doesn't do anything the turn he comes out, or maybe she doesn't do anything the turn she comes out. And is just incremental advantage seems good, you know. And in draft, again, in limited environments, especially draft, this will be, or even sealed because sealed is slow. This will be great, but it will come nowhere near Standard from what I can tell. Let's get into a 5-card series of creatures that I actually think will be all, except for maybe one, very, very fun for budget decks. Let me go ahead, which is my specialty. That's what we do on the channel. That's what we're known for. So I'm very excited about some of these. Let me go ahead and give you Baloth Null, which is probably the worst of this cycle for constructed play. 6 mana is way too much. I mean, it's just so freaking much. But in limited environments, this is just more than fine. You know, getting 2 guys back in limited is great. And this puts you up a card. That's cool. You play a card, you get 2 cards. That's actually really, really good. But even though it does that, it's still just, it's priced way out of Standard. We're not going to play it. Let me get into some stuff that will almost assuredly be in budget decks. First of all, Cliffhaven Vampire. This isn't ideal or anything, but it does fly. It is, you know, a good body. 2/4 is not bad. It blocks very well, obviously. Good defensive creature. But what I'm cool with here is the fact that it's an ally, and it has really good synergy with, you know, Zulaport Cutthroat for one, Calastria Healer for another, and even Drana's Emissary. So in the budget Black-White Allies deck, I think this is actually a pretty decent 4-drop. I could see this definitely being almost a finisher because it flies, it blocks well if it has to do that, buying you time for a couple of turns while you do tricks with, you know, Cutthroat, Emissary, and Calastria Healer, and a couple of other cards too. So I do like the card. The next 3 cards I am incredibly stoked about, more so than the last 2 I've talked about. This is Storm Chaser Mage, and it's great. I love the fact this card exists. It finally, for like 3 freaking months, why didn't you print this earlier, Wizards? For like the next 3 months, this makes Is It Prowess possibly a thing. I'm looking at a budget, Is It, you know, counter burn, or really just burn draw thing that runs like Treasure Cruise and burn spells. This guy, Monastery Swiftspear. I mean, you're making the deck already in your head. I mean, this is a great piece for something like that, and I really can't wait to build this deck because this is exactly the piece that deck was waiting on. This is Weapons Trainer, Budget Boros Equipment Aggro. Those are a bunch of words all strung together, but it is a deck that I'm actually really excited about making. You know, we're already talking about making mono white equipments. Once we saw, you know, the equipment guy in Stoneforge Masterwork, we're like, this might happen here. This guy definitely, or lady, I believe. Who knows? It could be either one. But this thing right here definitely shows that in this set, or possibly the next block in Innistrad, we'll get some really good equipments, or just playable equipment. 3 power for 2 mana, I should point that out too. It's not every creature that's equipped, it's just if you have an equipment, that's pretty freaking stupid. So I like everything about the card. Great piece. It's sort of the same feeling I had when we saw the Chiefs from Cons, you know, Chief of the Edge, Chief of the Scale. I was like, oh, okay, Warriors. Totally can make budget Warriors now. Same feeling I'm getting with this. And finally, for this cycle, this is Void Grafter, and I am so in love with this card. Flash. I love Flash creatures. I love that it's a 3-mana 2/4. That's traditionally good. Especially the fact that you can play it during combat or the end of their turn. That is amazing. I've had a lot of people ask me for Simic Flash on the channel over the last, 6-8 months. Well, it might be coming back. only for an investment of 3 mana. That's how much a blowout costs right now. I really like this card. I like to end on like weird or interesting things, and this is definitely that. This is Inverter of Truth right here, and there's a lot of players saying like, I don't know, but what is even the point of this? It's extraordinarily manipulable. I'm pretty sure like you can manipulate this to your advantage very easily, you guys. This self-mill loves something like this, and even in this standard, even if you're not necessarily self-milling with like Tychum Scheming and stuff like that, there are ways. We have fetch lands in this standard, we have Jace in this standard, Tormenting Voice, a bunch of stuff. Jeskai, Ascendancy that lets you discard cards. There's a million things, honestly, and those are all like bad examples. There's more examples than just that let you gather the pack as a thing, you know. I'm just thinking this stuff off the top of my head. There's a lot of ways to fill up our graveyard in this format. Not hard at all. Alright, well that was going to be the last card I was going to do, but as I was editing this sort of in the wee hours of the morning, Wizards spoiled 4 more new cards, 2 of which are just limited cards, and then 2 I'm actually sort of excited about and just have good first impressions of. First of all, Gift of Tusks. This is, you know, it's fine for limited. It's definitely designed for that format and nothing else, you know. In Commander and Modern stuff, we have like Pongify, and nobody really plays that anyway. And that destroys the creature. This doesn't even do that, but it's similar to that at least. This limited play only, and even then I'm not really sure about that. I'm just not a huge fan. The art's cool. This is Seer's Lantern, a card that is also geared towards limited, and you can tell, you know. Even in Commander, this looks attractive, but there's just a lot of better options in Commander, obviously. But in limited, this sort of helps with the colorless mana issue, you know. This is Thought Not Seer, which is weird. That's such a weird name, but in any case, a 4-mana 4/4, that's pretty good stats. You can play him in almost any deck, you know. He's got to have some colorless producing lands in there. And his ability's crazy. You know, we've seen stuff similar to this, but what's really cool about this is if they remove the guy, they don't get whatever you exiled back. They don't, you know. They just get to draw a card, which is still cool, you know. That's good for them. Drawing a card is all well and good. But if you remove a huge threat, they'll never get that threat back. It's gone forever. And you can process it too. That's really cool as well. This is the one I'm really excited about though. This is Bearer of Silence, and a lot of people have wanted me to do Mono Black Aggro again, revisit that deck. This is an amazing piece for that deck, which really lacks on quality 2-drops. You know, it's got some 2-drops, don't get me wrong, but it really lacks on quality 2-drops, and this is definitely one of those. If you wait until the 4th turn to cast it, you can kill a guy, make him sacrifice a creature, which is sometimes really desirable against, you know, things like Control. They play a Jutai and Silumgar and things like that, so that can be really good. But sacrificing a creature is just awesome. You know, they lose a guy, you get a flyer. That's what's really cool too. You play this just on curve on the 2nd turn, you have a 2-power flyer. Very flexible card and just amazing for that aggro deck. Well, that's all we got for now, but I'm sure there's going to be more spoilers tomorrow. The set's going to be spoiled completely very soon here, so stick with us. So if you're new, do the YouTube stuff, hit the thumbs up, all the things that they always tell you to do. Do the things. It really helps us out, and we love you guys when you do it. It's cool. I love you guys regardless, but do the things. I love you more. I'll see you guys next time, right? Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.